The episode starts when one of the strongest and most gifted magical knights, named Stella Vermilion, gets accepted at Hagun Academy with the highest A rank, and her score appears on the TV news. Upon hearing the news, our main character, named Ikki Kurogane, who is the worst and an F-ranked blazer, ponders why life is so unfair to some people and decides to go out jogging. While Stella is stealing the spotlight, Ikki is determined to be an aspiring magical knight and works hard for it despite being considered the worst due to his low magical abilities. However, as Ikki gets back to his apartment, an unfortunate accident occurs as our poor guy witnesses a girl half-dressed changing clothes in his room, which freaks him out. After that, Ikki is called by the academy director Kurono Shinguji for his misconduct, and he tries to clarify the situation, saying that he took off his clothes to make it even, which gets him into more trouble. As he is a gentleman, Kurogane takes responsibility and apologizes to Stella for his behavior. As they both don't seem to settle down, the director reveals that they both are roommates, to which Ikki and Stella don't agree, as Stella announces to set the house rules. To solve the dispute, Director Kurono decides to have a mock battle between them, and whoever loses must obey everything the winner says. Ikki accepts the battle as he notices this is a turning point, stating that he must work hard to win the 7-star sword art festivals. On the other hand, Stella seems to be furious about the battle, as she becomes determined to make Ikki lose. As the battle is about to start, Kurogane and Stella both enter the battlefield. Princess Vermilion talks about the rumors circulating about him that Ikki couldn't take the classes on actual fighting as he didn't have enough ability scores. But this doesn't bother him as he refuses to quit, and the fight begins as they both take out their swords. During the fight, they both strike their swords, and surprisingly, Ikki shows powerful fighting skills and even seems to take the lead as he discovers Vermilion's sword techniques, which he uses against her. Kurogane's blade steel technique leaves Stella shocked, but she still chooses to make a move and activates her noble art as a last resort. However, our hero discovers her next step and counters it with his noble art, which results in dodging Stella's attack and strikes back at her, knocking her to the ground. Ikki ends up winning the duel and immediately collapses. After that, the director visits Stella, and she seems to be so disturbed about why Ikki is F-ranked when he is a strong blazer. The director recommends her to follow his steps to improve. When she gets back to the apartment, she apologizes to Ikki for her behavior, and he reminds her of the deal for the loser to obey the winner. Ikki then orders Stella to be his roommate. Ikki and Stella are working on their physical strength by running, as it is part of his routine. Meanwhile, Stella shows hints that she is head over heels for Ikki when he offers her a drink. As Princess Vermilion and Kurogane are on their way to the class, Shizuku, Ikki's sister, seems to be on her way to the same school as her brother. When Stella and Ikki head up to the class, they learn about the selection match for the 7-star sword art festival from their teacher Yuri Oriki. After that, Ikki and Stella walk through the hallway when a classmate, Kagami Kusagabe, clings onto him for his interview. While trying to avoid her, Ikki spots his sister, Shizuku, who comes running to him and kisses him, which leaves everyone stunned. Stella seems to be jealous of Shizuku as she is so close to her brother. They both keep fighting about it and end up getting punished by the director with cleaning the washrooms. As they were done cleaning, Shizuku unintentionally reveals something about her brother that leaves Stella baffled. Later, Shizuku meets up with her roommate Alice Arisuin. Meanwhile, Stella asks Ikki about it, upon which he decides to confide her about his depressing past. He talks about Ryoma Kurogane, who was a samurai and also his grandfather, and Ikki wanted to be like him. Ikki's family was gifted and produced great blazers, except for Ikki. Sadly, the family treated him like he never existed. Ikki couldn't take anyone's terrible behavior, so he ran away from his house. Since it was snowing outside, he almost lost his way and gave up on his life until his grandfather showed up and saved his life. From that point on, Ikki decided to be like his grandfather Ryoma so he can rescue people in the same situation as he was. He was determined to be stronger, and that's why he joined the Hagun Academy. However, when Ikki's family discovers this, they didn't like the idea of him getting accepted to the academy and pressured the school, which resulted in Ikki's failing grade until Kurono became the new director. Yet Kurono was also pressured by his family, so Ikki concludes that he won't be able to graduate, and this behavior by his family will never come to an end. After training for a while, Stella tries asking Ikki out on a date, but she gets interrupted by a message from his sister Shizuku, who offers him to go out shopping with her, stealing Stella's chance, which makes her angry. Stella seems surprised when Ikki accepts the offer, and the princess also tags along with him. During the shopping trip, they try different food places suggested by Alice. The entire trip is spent with Shizuku and Stella trying to grab Ikki's attention, with Shizuku taking the lead every time. As the four of them split up to use the restrooms, Ikki praises Alice for getting Shizuku to open up to other people more and try to understand her. Unexpectedly, they get to know that the mall has been taken over by a criminal organization led by a blazer, and they ask for a high amount of money as ransom in exchange for the hostages captured at the mall. As Stella and Shizuku are held as hostages, Ikki and Alice escape their way from the restroom. Meanwhile, director Kurono authorizes Ikki, Shizuku, Alice, and Stella to use their spiritual powers and devices to defeat the criminals. While Shizuku and Stella hide their identities as blazers, one of the armed men attempts to fire a child. Princess Vermilion couldn't resist and intervened in the situation, making it worse. The armed man started firing toward her, which did not affect her. In the meantime, Bisho, the group leader, arrives at the spot and recognizes the princess. He challenges Princess Vermilion and attacks her with his device, the Judgment Ring, knocking her down. Bishop then forces the princess to take off her clothes in exchange for the freedom of the hostages, to which she agrees. In the meantime, Shizuku takes advantage of the armed man's distraction to protect the hostages with a wall of water, while Ikki strikes Bisho and slashes his left arm off to prevent him from using his Judgment Ring. As the other gunmen try to attack, Shizuya Kirihara arrives and suppresses them, and that's when the police reach the spot. Afterward, Kirihara gets all the praise for saving the hostages, which makes Stella's blood boil. While Ikki admires Shizuya for keeping them, it is disclosed in the message by the Academy that Ikki will be his first opponent in the 7-Star Sword Festival, to which Shizuya reveals that Ikki ran away when they had a match in the past. The tournament started between the contestants Stella Vermilion and her opponent Momotani. In the first round of the festival, Stella, Alice, and Shizuku win. Ikki in his room congratulates Stella on her win while he watches a video of his next opponent's previous match. The technique of Ikki's opponent is invisibility, which means that he can't see, smell, or sense his presence, which will make it challenging. The way Kirihara fights has earned him the nickname Hunter. Our protagonist gets nervous since he knew that his opponent's blazer was strong. Not to forget, Ikki's opponent Kirihara Shizuka, who was his classmate last year, is the same person who attacked Ikki, forcing him into a fight last year. However, Ikki didn't fight back, and because of that, he was saved from the punishment. The match begins between Ikki and Kirihara. Kirihara has gotten powerful since last year and activates his noble art. Now his arrows can only be seen when they hit the person. The helpless boy Ikki was injured very badly, and Shizuya starts making fun of him, and the audience starts to laugh at and degrade the poor Ikki. Ikki almost gives up when he hears Stella shouting, and that encourages him to get back up, gather his strength, and fight back. Kurogane now dodges all the attacks and learns the technique used by Kirihara, which is the perfect vision. Ikki wins his first official match, which was a great comeback. Ikki is taken by the medical team as he sustains injuries, and later in the medical room, Ikki confesses that he likes Stella, and she also likes him back. They both decide and promise to get stronger together and fight together at the festival. Stella feels sad as it has been 2 weeks since their relationship, yet they aren't spending that much time together. On the other hand, some students approach Ikki to ask him to teach them the sword skills he has. With him being a soft-hearted guy, he couldn't refuse their request, and with that, the number of students increases. However, Ikki gladly accepts to teach them all, and loses his title as the worst one to another one. As he becomes more popular among the other students, he starts volunteering and improving their strength by using his techniques and what he learned about swordsmanship. Our protagonist's ignorance towards Stella makes her mad. Shizuku asks Ikki to teach her sword skills too, which serves as the cherry on top. They all go to the local pool the next day as Ikki takes them all for further training. Meanwhile, Stella and Ikki get into a fight when she finds out about his relationship with his classmate Kagami Kusagabe, and that he no longer likes Princess Stella, which he quickly refuses, and the two settle down the situation by kissing each other. In the meantime, Princess Vermilion and Kurogane receive an email that their next opponents in the festivals are elected to the student council. Stella and Ikki are both playing separate matches against student council members. Ikki is up against contestant Renren Tomaru, and her technique is speed, while Stella is up against contestant Saijo, and his technique is the accumulation of slashing weight. Despite both the student council members being strong, they thrive to lose against Stella and Kurogane. Ikki had been noticing a girl stalking him for the past week, so he decided to confront her about it. She introduces herself as Ayatsuji Ayase. Ikki finds out that she is the daughter of Ayatsuji Kaido, a genius swordsman called the Last Samurai. Shizuku asks Ayatsuji Ayase the reason she was following her brother, to which she explains that she wants to learn sword skills from Ikki as her father is hospitalized. She further describes that no matter how hard she tries, she can't seem to improve. Our gracious main character agrees to help her, works on it and fixes her posture, and she instantly feels the improvement. He observes that her problem is in the imitation of her father's technique, which is the reason she is unable to utilize another style. He further suggests she adjust her position by knowing her anatomy. While escorting Ikki and Ayase home, Stella asks Shizuku if she is jealous of Ayatsuji, which she denies, but wishes that Stella could take care of her brother and never betray him. After some days of Ayatsuji training, she insists on buying a meal for both Ikki and Stella as they both were helping her out. There, a group of bullies come and pick on Ayatsuji, and she seems to know them. Ikki steps into the middle to help her as he notices Ayatsuji feeling uneasy because of them. The bullies try to pick a fight, but Ikki handles it nicely. Afterwards, some student council members of Hagun Academy named Utakata, Misogi, and Kanata approach Kurogane, commanding him not to compete against Kuraudo. As they walk back home, Ikki and Ayase get an email informing them about their next opponents, and it turns out that both of them will be fighting against each other. The following night, Ayatsuji calls Ikki up on the school rooftop and they meet up. As Ikki and Ayase meet on the rooftop, she seems to be acting strange. She starts questioning him about their next fight and abruptly makes her fall from the rooftop. As our protagonist rushes to save her, he uses his noble art, which is a trump card, and manages to save Ayatsuji. It turns out that Ayase jumps off the roof on purpose just so that Ikki uses his noble art, which leaves him astounded. As he still seems to be in shock, Ikki asks her the reason for doing this, to which Ayase responds that she is determined to win this fight no matter what, and now she will indeed win the fight as Ikki can only use the noble art once a day, and the selection match will take place in 10 hours, leaving no time to recover. After she leaves, Ikki manages to get himself back to the room asking for help from Stella and faints. In the morning, he wakes up in the hospital and there is still some time left for the match. In the meantime, director Shinguji arrives asking Ikki to visit her office. Our brave MC is ready to take any punishment for causing the school building damage. However, he decides not to reveal the fight between him and Ayase. In the office, it is revealed by the director that Ayase Ayatsuji's father, Ayatsuji Kaito, became unable to wield a sword again when he loses in a battle with Donor Academy sword eater Kurashiki Kuraudo, who took all his lands and property after an agreement before the duel. For the past 2 years, Ayase's father has been in a coma, and that's when we time travel to a story where her father tells her to always fight fair and square and despise evil, but she loses her cool and decides to play dirty when she is outraged by Kurashiki to get her pride back for the sake of her family. Before the match, Ikki feels bad for Ayase as she lost everything she loves and decides to help her get her honor back and make a fair fight. Eventually, the battle starts and Ikki enters the battlefield. Just after that, Ayatsuji shows up, assuming that Ikki would give up. As the fight begins, both of the contestants disclose their noble art, and suddenly Ikki starts getting cuts on his body as Ayase strikes her noble art, which is Scratch Wind. Now Ikki gets a hunch of her techniques and realizes that the battlefield is outfitted with her traps settled in the unseen whirlwinds. Ayase activates traps in the air beforehand, and now as Ikki gets the hold of it, he starts dodging her attacks. However, it is uncovered that setting traps before the fight is against the rules, which goes unnoticed by the judges, and as soon as they realize this, it will make Ikki win the battle in no time. Meanwhile, it is revealed to us that before the match, Ikki and Stella visit one of the judges and tell them about the traps being set beforehand by Ayase. But he pleads with the judge to ignore this violation because he doesn't want to cut ties with Ayase and wants to know her true feelings. As the scene flips to the battlefield, Ikki, despite sustaining serious injuries, tries to convince Ayase to fight with true power rather than her evil side. Ikki breaks through to her to help her gain her pride, offering his help so that she can get what she lost to do. So he strikes her with his sword and uses his secret technique, making him win. Ayase still wants to fight with no power left in her, yet she gives up and her sword disappears as if she was deceiving herself. Our protagonist moves forward and gives her a helping hand and vows to get everything that she lost back, which Ayatsuji accepts gladly, making her cry out of happiness. As Ikki, Stella, and Ayatsuji make their way to their family dojo, Ayase reveals how her father taught them swordsmanship with dignity. Even when he retired and couldn't wield a sword, he still guided them in the right path. However, one thing that surprises the three of them is how Kurashiki was able to defeat Kaido with just his sword abilities, and Ayase regrets not standing up for her father. As they reach the dojo, Kurogane confronts Kurashiki and challenges him to a duel right away. Kurashiki questions Ikki's power and ability to fight with him, but he gets ready to fight with him after watching his wins at the Seven Swords of Festival Arts. Abruptly, Kurashiki reveals his device, Orochimaru, a massive sword with spikes, and strikes toward Ikki, who also forms his device, ready to fight to reclaim Ayase's dojo. As the fight progresses, both of them attack evenly, but Kurashiki being prompt with his sword and using simultaneous attacks towards Kurogane results in some injuries. As Kurogane sustains some injuries, Ayase gets reminded of her father and tries to stop them, but she gets stopped by Stella, who tells her that Kurashiki and Ikki are enjoying the fight, just like her father did, to which Ayatsuji realizes that her father Kaido wasn't apologizing to her but to his opponent for not completing the fight and accomplishing his final move. Furthermore, the fight goes on, but it eventually halts when Ikki Kurogane executes the final technique, known as Tani Muho, forged by Ayase Kaido, which results in defeating the powerful Kurashiki. In addition, Ayase reclaims her dojo, and Ikki reveals that he was able to perform this technique just because Ayatsuji memorized it flawlessly. After that, as Stella congratulates Ikki on making Ayase's wishes come true, they get to know that Ayase had confessed her unfair traps during the battle and that her father had gained consciousness. And on this cliffhanger, our recap comes to an end. What do you think will happen next to Ikki and the crew? Do let us know in the comments, and as always, thanks for watching. Drop us a like, share it with your friends, and subscribe to Annie Recapped to find more awesome animes like this to watch on your feed. With that said, we'll see you in the next one. Peace!